Welcome back, baseball fans, to the 1970-71-23 carryover league. And what I'm going to do in as far as draft prep goes is kind of alternate between looking at the stats and the data in a spreadsheet, and then also alternating that with videos about what the card sets are looking like in this timeline moving forward. So what we have here is our 1970 card set. Now, just to review, each team currently has 6 1970 cards on their team. There's 32 teams, so that means that there's 192 cards that are in the league. 192 cards in the league. And we have a roster sheet from 1970 here, and we know that in the redrafted league, all 32 teams would have 20 for 640. But we know that we didn't have that many with the reprint set. We have 20 per team, and you have 40 additional players on American League, and the National League, 49 additionals, 576 plus one guy in both leagues. So we knew we were going to have to print, and we did print, nameless player cards. And I've actually pulled these out since they're not going to be of use to analyze. So I made all these cards, you see, for the 1970 season. And I circulated them throughout the league just so that all the teams could have 640 guys. But remember now, not only are these guys not in the league, and we have 192 cards already in the league. You subtract all of that, and you'll see that the number of players left is a much smaller number. 640 minus, let's say, 200 is 440, plus some more. You're looking about maybe 400 cards here, maybe 350 to 400 cards here of cards. And some of these are players who are already in the league in a different year. So you're going to not necessarily take them, of course. But the purpose tonight is to look at some cards. I like to spend about 15 minutes kind of like going through the teams and just kind of getting an idea of what to expect moving forward as we are just, starting the off season, just kind of keeping busy, keeping organized, an idea of what to expect, because we still have many months before we draft in the spring. What we also do is that we actually play a little tournament with just these 1970 cards in February, March of 2022, just to get an idea of how the cards play, since I've never really played most of these cards before. Probably none of these cards I have not played, though the player I've used in a different year. So we know these nameless cards aren't going to be in the league. We also have two sets of, we have a nice big chunk of, by the thickness of it, nice big chunk of hitters and a nice big chunk of pitchers who are not been in the league yet. So they don't have, they're free agents, they can play for anybody. But then we also have cards stored based on keeper, waivers, and retires, which we're analyzing in the other YouTube video set. So I'm going to have a keeper, waiver, retire analysis, and I'm also going to have a card analysis. So tonight I thought I would start with the first half of the American League, try and get through the American League East, maybe the American League North, and see how far we go, and then we'll call it. All right, so let's start in the East with Baltimore. And when I do this, I'm just going to keep my eyes on a spreadsheet that's also open, just to give you an idea so I can talk through this and analyze what players are in play as getting into the league. So Baltimore right now has 5 keepers that they can't keep. So because again, we're still working on the keeper waiver retirement spreadsheet. But Frank Robinson, Paul Blair, Cuellar, Elrod Hendricks, and Dick Hall. I'll show you what I do here. Currently, these 5 guys are keepers, and this guy, Ron Taylor's on waivers, so I put him upside down to remind myself. He's on waivers. And then these cards here, if I flip them over really quickly, Etchebarren, Grich, Buford, McNally, and Dobson, they are already in the carryover league in either the years 1971 or 1972, so they will just safely stay there and not be analyzed. So the question for analysis is, do we think Frank Robinson, this card, will come into the league next year, or will it be a different year? Well, we're only doing analysis of this year, so we don't know what the future says. But this guy is certainly good enough. He's just a little bit lower in batting average than where he's been in the previous year. So there's not much of a decline in his games. So that's looking good. Paul Blair still offers that Gold Glove defense. And really, he still has the power here. He had 26 summers in 69. His numbers drop off a little. Still hitting 267, so Robinson and Blair were the first 269 players the Orioles added to their team, and they might be the first 270 players. Next up is Cuellar. Now, he was Crazy Horse, the MVP of the World Series a year ago. The ERA is a little high, 24-game winner. ERA is over 347. He also has the 6.5 card, which is usually the 7th best pitcher on a team. So even though 31 out of 32 teams would take this guy, the Orioles might say, let's find a different year for Cuellar. He might actually be better than this. Elrod Hendricks, pretty much similar performance. You're going to get a 245 with a left-handed hitting catcher with power, 242. And Dick Hall starts to get a little bit less dominant here. Notice the long ball. You don't like to see that out of a closer if you can avoid it. Still 3.10 ERA. He's just not quite as lights out as he's been. So what you're starting to see is age of the Orioles. Then this fella, Ron Taylor, is on waivers. So he can be picked up by anybody. Just kind of ordinary guy there. Nothing special. That's the Baltimore analysis. Next, the Boston analysis. Now, they had the best record this year, but there's going to be some key player movement, and it's going to be Petrocelli, whose magnificent 69 card is gone, Reggie Smith, Jerry Moses, Mike Andrews, and Sparky Lyle. All 5 of these guys, and of course they can't keep 5, so they have to decide who to move on with. You get the idea that they're going to keep rolling with Petrocelli. Plus, he still can play short. He's just not a 2 anymore. There's no reason to move on from him, so he's coming back. And you figure Reggie Smith, similarly, less errors, like to see that. Again, you know, just a superstar in the making. Jerry Moses is a backup catcher. The thing is, he's very good. Well, he's good. He's good enough, certainly good enough. 263, yeah, that's definitely possible starting catcher. But they have Fisk, so they don't really need Jerry Moses. He's a luxury at this point. Now, Mike Andrews, his game starts to go down a bit. He still has the power, but the batting average goes from 285 to 253. Full season. And his defense is a 3. And then you have Sparky Lyle. Now, Lyle is kind of ordinary, as you can see. 3.90 ERA, 1-7, 67 innings. There's nothing here that jumps off the page and says closer. So if they ultimately let him go, we know they let him go. He goes to the Yankees in that Danny Cater trade. It could be that they keep these tried and true Red Sox. Petrocelli, Smith, Moses, and Andrews. And again, the 2 wavered guys we're looking at right now, Bill Voss, Mike Nagy, are free to negotiate with anybody. They're just okay. Nothing special. All right, Yankees. The New York Yankees. Great start, and then they swooned. They have 5 keepers. And they have a couple guys going on waivers. The 5 keepers, the best one is Fritz Peterson. No freaking brainer. First name announced when the Yankees go to the microphone in this draft. Another super great season. And him and Stottlemyre at the top. Wish he was a starter 9, but starter 7 will have to do. Now we have the double play combo, Michael and Horace Clarke. The bat's not there. I do like a 2 at short. I am a sucker for those. I just can't take my eyes off 1s and 2s at shortstop. So Michael, his defense gets better here, even though the stick gets worse. The stick's stick gets worse. Horace Clarke, his glove, now he's a 3 at short, so I'm not that crazy about him. Still an ace stealer, but is still a starting player in the league at 251 in more than a full season. He's a starting player. Buddy Bradford, he's a 2-2 in center with homers both ways and on base percentage. He'll get a job, not as a starter, maybe as a backup. The 193 average is deceiving because of the on bases, but he's a backup role player defense. And I'm not really crazy about this Andy Costco anymore. We know he's going to he'll always crush homers against lefties, but that's not enough. Batting average there, but not this year. 228. Your 2 wave guys, Ron Willis, no, nothing really special, and Barry Moore. Again, the waiver guys are waived for a reason. They're not really special. Last team in the American League East, the Toronto Blue Jays. All right, we talked in the first video, I hope you saw it, that the Mets decided to make an executive move on one of their stars that helped them win the World Series. Knowing they couldn't keep the 5 of Seaver, Kuzman, Grody, Cleon Jones, and AG, they decided on 3 things. 1, get him out of the National League. 2, get him away from a team that we could face in the World Series. And 3, put him on a team that can help knock out teams trying to go to the World Series. That's Toronto. So hopefully the Mets getting AG on Toronto will help Toronto win some more games against the Orioles, the Red Sox, and the Yankees. So this, right now, at this particular moment in time, the Toronto Blue Jays, folks, they're winning the offseason. They've made the best move in the offseason because this is their new center fielder next year. And now we at least have some hope in Toronto. And what does a 1 with a -3 arm and an ace stealer do for the Blue Jays? Does it get them near 500? They got good pitching, it might. But he will be the first name brought up on the microphone by Toronto. I love the Frank Fernandez card. Homers, walks. This guy would be a good Colorado Rocky, by the way. But I think Toronto doesn't want to let him go. Love the power. Carl Taylor hit .348 with his card last year that finally had to go away. And the harsh reality of what Carl Taylor really is. But frankly, I think they'll keep him one more year. He's at least versatile, and he's decent with the when you factor in the on base. Mike Lum, we looked into the future of this guy. Not this year, but he's got a nice year coming up in 73. And that's the year they'll go for. A couple wave guys, Rico Joseph and Tommy Dean and Dick Schofield. None are particularly interesting, other than Schofield being a switch hitter with on base and the ability to play 3 infield positions. He'll probably be a token pick in the draft to fill out somebody's roster. All right, that's it for the 1970 American League East. We'll do one more division and call it. We'll go into the North, which had so many problems in this past year, with only Detroit going to the playoffs with a losing record. The Expos, though, see some promise coming after their 69 expansion. Ron Fairley, 70 card, is great. Rusty Staubs is as well. This Mac Jones is very interesting, intriguing in a cool way. I love the walks and the homer potential, even though he only hit .240. Kind of a cool card. Waslewski, they only have to take 2 of these guys. They don't need to take all 4, just 2. And they've got plenty of opportunities. Ron Brand, nothing special. Coco LeBoy fell off his game a bit. And Woody Woodward might get a utility job, but he's nothing really special. All right. Next up, we're going to look at the other expansion team in this division, Ohio. The future's not really rosy here, and you have to understand it's because these expansion teams who have no history, have no farm system really. They got to rely on players let go by other teams. Al Downing and Rudy May need to be replenished, or renovated, I like to say sometimes. I don't know if it's going to be either of these cards, though. They're not particularly that great, are they? 353 is alright. They're okay, nothing special. And your waived guys are Willie Smith, and that's it. So, I don't know what the future is like for this expansion team, but it could be another rough year. Alright, now on the team that's got the first overall pick in the draft, the Cleveland Indians. No, I don't see a first overall pick in this analysis. Duke Sims, great card. Love this card. Similar to the card he had last year. A 0 arm at catcher. -2 arm in the outfield. You play him both ways. Everyday player. Fun card. 264, 23 homers, and 345. Great card. He's got another great card. So Duke Sims will come back for the Indians. Question of which year they want to do. Tony Horton, that's another good card. First base or DH. Chenny Romo in the bullpen. Kind of ordinary. Maybe he's got a better year, they have to hope. And Eddie Watt starts to fall off his game a tad, but his career continues into the early 70s with the Orioles, and Cleveland has the rights to him. The wave guys, Dave Marshall. Well, he's got power this year. He's a platoon kind of player. Washburn, not very good at all, but he qualified for waivers, so that's where he sits. The idea with the waivered guys is that it's easier to move a waivered guy to retirement than vice versa. And lastly, the team who lost the World Series, Detroit Tigers, and then we'll call it a night. Your Detroit Tigers, Willie Horton, he had a huge year. He had 20 home runs and taking his team to the World Series. Didn't win the MVP or an All-Star nod, oddly enough. But he comes back with an improved batting average, slightly improved defense, similar power, a little bit less power. Batting average is up. All right, Northrop's defense is still there. Power's still there. Batting average drops a little to 262. McAuliffe, always an on-base machine. Still a great defensive second baseman who can hit lefties. The walks make up for the lack of batting average here. Wish he had power. He doesn't have it anymore. But he's still a Tiger. But he also has a good year, I believe, in 73. So they have the choice of picking which Dick McAuliffe they bring back. Believe it or not, Norm Cash is getting older, but he'll get better than this. I think he's like 36 in this year. The 259 batting average and 15 homers. He has a rejuvenation in 1971. I think he's even on the Tigers All-Star roster as they hosted the All-Star game in 71. I want to say Norm Cash. He had a monster year in 71, so they might skip this year. The two guys they waive, interestingly, Denny McLain, 68 and 69 were massive, and then this happens. This is not a very good card anymore. 3 and 5, 465 and 91 innings. And it's just not really worth a spot on this Tigers team. I don't know. He's on waivers, so somebody might pick him up as a starter 6, but it's going to be tough for this guy. Then Sid O'Brien, acquired in a token trade with Colorado. Nothing special there, really. Though, oddly enough, it could be the Tigers who pick this guy up off of waivers since they need a third baseman. But for now, he can sign with anybody. And that concludes. Here's the 4 guys. Whoops, that concludes the first 8 teams. And we'll resume next time. We'll start getting into the rest of the American League. All right, I hope you're enjoying this card look. We'll see you next time.